Well, Braves fans, here we are. We are finally at the end of spring training and on the verge of the regular season beginning. I'm certainly ready for that. I'm very excited for this season. I think the Braves are going to have a really good year. Very, very positive vibes from my end of things for sure, and it seems like that's true in spring training as well. But at the same time, a flurry of moves from the Braves right here at the end of spring training. We'll get into that a little bit in this episode. And then what I love to do right before the season starts every year is give you guys my player predictions. A few things that I expect from the Braves. These are fun. I don't always get them right. 2 years ago, I got a few right. Last year, not many. Of course, last year didn't go quite the way any of us expected or wanted. So we'll do that. We'll have some fun with it. And so here we go. All right, guys. So here we are. Like I said, on the verge of the regular season beginning. It's probably my favorite time of just the sports calendar. You have March Madness going on, baseball starting. The Masters is a couple weeks away. Spring is in the air. Things are getting warmer. It's just a good time of year as far as I'm concerned. So let's start with some Braves news. We'll talk about this a little bit. But again, most of this episode will be devoted to these player predictions that I will throw out to you guys, and you guys can comment. Let me know what you think. Agree, disagree, that sort of thing. All right, but the Braves, their roster has been a little in flux this spring training, and that's, I think, a little different than in years past, and especially it's true of the pitching staff and especially the bullpen. The bullpen just does not seem to be set. For whatever reason, the Braves weren't really willing to spend much on the bullpen this year or this offseason. So, it is what it is. But a Craig Kimbrell reunion is in the works, or has happened. Alex Verdugo adding an outfielder. That I didn't see that one coming. Ian Anderson getting traded. And then Jesse Chavez returns once again. It's not spring training until Jesse Chavez shows up. So let's start with Craig Kimbrell. He was added on a minor league deal. This is obviously a reunion for Kimbrell and the Braves. Look, Kimbrell is trying to extend his career. It's a borderline Hall of Fame career. Again, that he started with the Braves, and when he was with the Braves, he was historically dominant. I mean, he was just that good. It's hard for anyone to continue on that level for an entire career. He would be a surefire Hall of Famer if that had happened. He still had some good years since leaving Atlanta, certainly. He has racked up a ton of saves, 440 career saves, which is fifth all-time. He's 7 behind Kenley Jansen, who, of course, is also active and will be closing for the Angels this year. He's 38 behind Lee Smith, and that's probably as far as anyone's going to go in terms of Kenley Jansen or Craig Kimbrell breaking into maybe the top 3. You're not catching Mariano Rivera. You're not catching Trevor Hoffman. Mariano Rivera has the career saves lead in the 600s. So being in the 440s, the 400s right now, he's probably just hoping for a chance to save. Of course, that chance is not there for the Braves right now with Iglesias, but he still latches on with the Braves and continues, at least hopes to continue his career, and I would expect him within the next few weeks to join the Braves out of minor league camp. Kimbrell is coming off the worst year of his career. That's why he had to settle for a minor league deal this late in his career. With the Orioles last year, he had a 5.53 ERA and a negative 1.1 WAR. That's obviously career worse for Kimbrell. But listen, Kimbrell was elite as recently as 2023, especially the first half of 2023. He was an all-star that year. Really had a bounce back, a 1.04 whip that season with the Phillies. His fastball velocity was still high at an average of 95.8. His expected batting average and strikeout percentages were like super elite, over 95th percentile for both of those. But then in 2024, his velocity dropped almost 2 miles per hour, which is significant. So he has to regain his fastball. His fastball, he's always worked off of that elite fastball, and then his curve has been really good off of that. So when his fastball got bad, or at least not as good, everything went downhill. So we'll see. At this point, can he turn it around and improve those numbers? I don't know. It would be a great story if he can. I've kind of always hoped that Kimbrel might come back to the Braves, but at this point in his career, it's a little less exciting just because I'm not sure how much he has left. The Braves bullpen is certainly a big question mark. So if he can find his 2023 form, once again, it will be a huge lift for the Braves. All right, Alex Verdugo signed a major league deal with the Braves. This one is particularly surprising. I'm not going to say shocking, but surprising just because the need and what Verdugo brings to the table. I don't know that he's filling a need. So Verdugo, a lot of people know his name. He was famously in the deal where the Dodgers sent him to the Red Sox in part for Mookie Betts. So he was a pretty big prospect at one time. It's hard to live up to that sort of thing. In 4 of Verdugo's 6 full seasons in the big leagues, he's been a good player. He's been better than serviceable starting outfielder, 2.2 WAR or higher in those 4 seasons, and he's had 2 not so great seasons, including the one that he's coming off of, which is why he barely was able to get a major league deal this offseason. He does provide value. I mean, he's an excellent defensive outfielder, but his offensive numbers have never been super exciting. He doesn't have a ton of power. He's more of a contact on-base guy. He's a low strikeout rate, but what happened for him last year is his batting average just tanked. I think he hit 233 on top of not having much power, so you're not going to have a lot of value there. I think his defense wasn't quite as good either. So not sure what happened in his 1 year with New York, but he did not play well. That being said, I mean, on the surface, it's a great value signing. They signed him for $1.5 million, which is nothing these days. But it's just puzzling because Verdugo is a left-handed corner outfielder, and the Braves already have one of those in Jared Kelenic on the roster. Now, Kelenic has options, so you just wonder, could this mean that Kelenic gets traded or gets sent down to AAA to start the year? Kelenic has not been particularly impressive this spring training. He has a 205 batting average this spring. So look, they're not the exact same player. Verdugo is more contact, more on base skills, and at least a slightly better glove, whereas Kelenic gives you more power potential. So, I don't hate the Verdugo signing, but it's just kind of questionable. What are they going to do? It is a major league deal, so he's coming up at some point. So I'm not sure what that means for Jared Kelenic. We'll just have to see. Okay, Ian Anderson got traded just yesterday to the Angels for lefty Jose Suarez. Anderson, I think most people have felt like, and I've kind of fallen into that track, that Anderson was practically guaranteed a spot to start the year just because he had no minor league options left. But he did nothing this spring training to prove himself that he was back. He's coming off of Tommy John. He spent all of last year coming off Tommy John in AAA and just didn't look that great. And it just all carried over this spring training in 20 innings, 20 walks, and he just has not been able to find it. And he goes to the Angels, and you wish him well, and I hope that he is able to find it. It's an up and down career for Ian Anderson. His early career just seemed so promising. He was so good in 2020 when he came up. He was absolutely a big reason why the Braves won the World Series in 2021, especially because of his postseason performances. But it just kind of has been downhill since then, and hopefully he can get it back, but it's not going to be with the Braves. And the fact that the Braves just got Suarez in return, I mean, this guy is at best, I think he's just at best AAA pitching depth. If you look at his career numbers, I think over a 5 career ERA. So I don't know that you can expect to get a lot from him. All right, and then finally Jesse Chavez. He was dropped by, I think it was the Tigers. The Braves quickly added him on a minor league deal. The bullpen obviously continues to remain in flux, and Chavez, he's not going to excite me at this point. He's 41 years old. He's been a great Brave in a lot of ways, and the Braves just, for whatever reason, seem to get the best version of Jesse Chavez whenever he comes back to Atlanta. They certainly value his presence. I do think that's a real thing. They value him in the clubhouse, and it's a there's no reason not to try it. And maybe he's serving in a mop-up role for a few weeks or a few months on the Braves, and you don't see him but once a week coming into a game that's, a blowout one way or the other. That might be all that he is for the Braves, kind of those meaningless innings. But they pick him up. I still think the bullpen is probably going to change a little bit throughout the season. I would expect that. But Jesse Chavez is another addition the Braves have done. All right, so the Braves travel to Arizona today and tomorrow for a rare appearance out west to end spring training before starting the season out west against the Phillies. So they're basically stopping off for a 2-game series with the Cubs in Arizona to end spring training. That'll be interesting to play out there, I'm sure, for them. Just not something the Braves would typically do. The Braves have a very tough start of the regular season in a different way. The Braves usually start the year in these cold weather cities for whatever reason. They're just like in snow or bitter cold. Last year, I think it was the White Sox, and remember one of those games got basically snowed out and delayed, and they had to go play it later in the year, and it was super awkward. So this year it's not that. They get to start in warm weather cities in San Diego and LA, but against 2 really good teams. So they have a murderer's row of, really tough first 7 games of the season for the Braves. So big challenge, but obviously if they come out of that 5-2 or at least a winning record, you're feeling pretty good about the start of the regular season. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and jump into these player predictions. I'm not going to sit here and promise you that they're totally original, that no one has thought of these or talking about them. Some of them I think are almost fairly obvious. Others of them may be a little more original than the others. But that being said, these are just true to where I'm standing with some of the Braves players and how I feel their seasons are going to go. They're not all positive, but most of them are positive. Okay, so the number one, Austin Riley will finish in the top 10 in MVP voting. And, this is basically meaning that Riley gets back to where he has been the last several seasons before 2024. He's finished in, the top 10 of MVPs, I think three times. And so he certainly can do that again. Winning the NL MVP for Riley would be kind of just a whole nother thing. I think that's going to be really tough. The National League MVP race is so difficult now with Ohtani and Juan Soto, and of course Ronald coming back. It's just very crowded. But top 10, yeah, I think Austin Riley can definitely get back to that. He's improved his defense. This helps his overall WAR. Those people who are voting that just look for player value, I think that will help Riley a lot. He just needs to put together a really good offensive year that we know he can, and that would be great for him. He escaped an injury this spring, and so typically he's a very healthy player. Hopefully he stays on that track and has a great season. But yeah, I think Riley finishing in the top 10 for MVP, it's not outlandish. I think it's actually very realistic if he plays to the level we know he's capable of playing. All right, my number 2 prediction. 2 Braves pitchers will finish in the top 5 in the Cy Young race. Top 5 in Cy Young race. So the 3 obvious candidates, most obvious candidates, Chris Sale, who's the Cy Young. I don't know if he's the front runner, but he is defending Cy Young champ coming back this year. And then you have Spencer Strider, who's just, I know it's only been 2 spring starts, but his starts have been just very encouraging, to say the least. And then Spencer Schwellenbach has had one of the best springs of maybe any pitcher in baseball. And I'm a big believer in Schwellenbach. So Sale is actually my favorite to win. I think he absolutely could go back-to-back, which would cement, a lot of people think he might already be a Hall of Famer. But I think it would probably cement his Hall of Fame resume if he were to do that. And I think he very well might. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy, but when he's healthy, he's dominant. Schwellenbach looks so good, and I think he's a star. I think he's a star in the making, period. And he might just prove that and cement that this season. And then Strider, again, it's a little bit of a question mark. It's tough to have these high of expectations. I'm not sitting here and telling you he's going to win the Cy Young, but if he gets back mid-April, which is a little earlier than the Braves initially said he'd get back, and he's able to put in those innings, he's a special player. Strider, when he came back for that first spring start, it's just a reminder of this is not your typical baseball player. It's not your typical pitcher. He is pretty special, and if he comes back healthy, he's going to be full go, and it could be he could surprise some people and be back in that Cy Young mix. All right, my number 3 prediction: the entire Braves outfield will make the All-Star team, meaning the starting outfield, of course. So Acuna, now, even if Ronald doesn't come back and is just lighting the world on fire, he's so popular, I can absolutely see Ronald getting voted in. I really expect him to be, maybe not back to full strength, but I think Ronald is going to be really good when he comes back. Michael Harris is the guy that everybody's high on. I am too, and I actually have been the last 2 seasons as well. Of course, injuries have gotten in the way for him a little bit, but man, let's hope for a healthy season and see if he can really start reaching that full potential simply by being healthy. So Acuna and Harris starting alongside Juan Soto, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And then Profar is the one that he's going to have to back up last season, which was a career year for him, with another really good one. But I'm bullish on Profar doing that, and I'm really excited to see him at the top of the lineup with that high on base percentage and just bringing a little bit of a different hitting mentality to this Braves lineup. So I think it would be, a few years ago we had the full Braves infield make the All-Star team. I think it'd be awesome to see the entire Braves outfield make the All-Star team. All right, my number 4 prediction: the Braves will have a higher team slugging percentage than the Dodgers in 2025. Of course, everybody's in love with the Dodgers, and for good reason. They won the World Series and then won the offseason as well. Every projection system has them winning like an absurd amount of games. They're incredibly talented. They're incredibly deep. But you can only start 9 guys in that lineup every day. And, as good as the Dodgers were, the Dodgers last year had a slugging percentage, a team slugging percentage of .446, which is great, right? But let's not forget the Braves had a .500 slugging percentage in 2023. When they meet their max potential, they, I think, are a better offense than the Dodgers. Maybe not by a lot. I'm not going to go crazy on that. I'm not going to say the Braves are going to have a .500 slugging percentage again. Maybe it's .450, maybe it's .460, but I think it's going to be better than the Dodgers. They only had a .415 slugging percentage last year, which was 9th in baseball. But being back fully healthy, getting Ronald back, all those things we've talked about before, I expect the Braves to really mash the ball this year and get back to at least a close representation of what they were in 2023. Number 5 prediction: the Braves will make one very big trade at the trade deadline. I think one reason, and I think I mentioned this before, but one reason I think the Braves weren't more aggressive this offseason to go out and get more than just Jurickson Profar was because Alex Anthopoulos wants to hold more funds for a bolder move at the trade deadline. I think he got caught a little bit with all the injuries this past season. If he couldn't do a ton, he didn't have a lot of money to spend at the trade deadline. So it's like Jorge Soler, right? I mean, you can't do too much, and you got to be really just creative to bring anybody in. So I think he wants to provide himself a lot more flexibility to do that. And it makes some sense. If there's an injury during the season, you need big money to make that move. And yeah, they had very little wiggle room last trade deadline. And I think there's more of a setup for there to be some big names on the trade deadline or at the trade deadline this time around. Michael King, I mean, we're talking about rentals. Michael King, Dylan Cease, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, Zach Gallen. All these guys are in the last year of their deals. And these are teams that are certainly vying for a playoff spot, but if they happen to fall off earlier this season and are out of it, then I think the Braves could swoop in and do something. So I expect them to do that, especially if there's some kind of injury. I mean, they're not going to go out and get Vlad Guerrero unless, either they have an injury with Marcell Ozuna or Matt Olson. But and I don't necessarily expect he would be the most likely guy to go out and get. But certainly a pitcher, I think that could be something to really look for. All right, my number 6 prediction, Drake Baldwin will play at least 40 games in the big leagues this year and cement himself in the Braves plans beyond this season. So, he's probably going to get about 15 to 20 games here at the beginning of the year as Murphy is hurt. But I think he will probably get sent back down to AAA once Murphy's healthy. What I'm really predicting here is that at the end of the season, you're going to see Drake Baldwin some again. And of course, an injury could happen. He can be back at the big league level. It does, the one thing about this Murphy injury that's awkward is getting him at the big league club to start the year. If he plays really well, and then you have to send him back to AAA, it's just going to be a little tough. But I think that's probably going to happen. But I really think Baldwin's going to play well enough for the Braves to decide, yep, he's in our plans moving forward. And I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to see Drake Baldwin play. All right, my last one is a little bit of a negative, but Orlando Arcia will not end the year as the Braves starting shortstop. The Braves don't need to release him or anything. He's only making $2 million a year, but he has been terrible this spring offensively, and he was not good last year offensively. And so this is just kind of a continuation. I just haven't seen any kind of hints that he's going to suddenly turn it on offensively at all. At the same time, Nick Allen he's had one of the best springs of anyone on the team. Now, a good spring doesn't guarantee much. We know that, but it certainly should count for something. I won't be surprised if Nick Allen starts getting some playing time if Orlando Arcia struggles through April, let's say. And so, just to back that up, Arcia has hit 143 this spring, and Nick Allen has hit 353. And Nick Allen has gotten a lot of playing time, by the way, and he has an excellent glove. So if Arcia just looks like he's done, he's toast, then Allen seems like an easy internal option. It's nice for the Braves to have maybe a little better internal option than they've had in the last couple of years. And then again, at the trade deadline, maybe someone's available. I'm just, Bo Bichette, who knows, but maybe someone would be available if he's really struggling, and Allen doesn't seem to be the answer. They could go somewhere else. All right, so guys, those are my 7 predictions. I think the last few years I've gone with 6. I feel like 6 is not a good number. 7 feels like a better number to end on. So I went with 7 this year. Tell me what you think. And maybe there's some players, I didn't talk about Ozzie Albies. I didn't talk about Matt Olson or Marcell Ozuna. You can let me know what you think those guys are going to do. And by the way, before I go, I think I took some flack just in the comments section for some of my predictions in my last episode. And if you haven't seen that episode, please go back and watch it. But I picked the Braves. Number one, yeah, I am a homer. This is a Braves podcast, but I feel like I'm trying to be unbiased too. And I feel like I was pretty down the line. 95 wins for the Braves. I picked the Phillies second. And I did pick the Braves to beat the Dodgers in the NLCS, but let me reiterate, if Strider, Chris Sale, and who I think Schwellenbach is, if those guys are healthy going into the postseason, I'm not the only one saying that is an incredibly good 3 pitchers to throw at any team, on top of probably having the best offense in baseball. So as great as the Dodgers could be, I mean, honestly, they could have a historic win total. But in a 7-game series, Braves and Dodgers, I think at the very least it's chalk. I think at the very least it is. And I do think the Braves are built really, really well for a 7-game series. It all requires health. Obviously, a lot of my predictions were off last year because the Braves just couldn't be healthy. And the same could happen this year, or it could happen to any other team. We just can't know that. But I feel great about this team. I have in years past too. It was not as fun of an offseason simply because the Braves didn't do much. But here we are, and as you're looking at this team, they are as talented as anybody in baseball, except maybe the Dodgers. But they're set up for a lot of success. Can't wait for this season to start. I know you guys feel the same way. Enjoy these 2 games with the Braves playing the Cubs in Arizona, and then man, let's get it going for the regular season out west. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode, and I'll talk to you soon. I'll talk to you next time when the season is underway.